An important message from MNU. Your area is on high alert. Report any of the following non-human activity to us immediately. Non-humans crossing the border of District 9, gathering in groups of 2 or more, demonstrating aggressive or suspicious behavior of any kind. This has been a safety alert from Multinational United. For more information, visit d-9.com or call 866-666-6001.
MNU, keeping humans safe by keeping non-humans separate.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Balls. Prepare for Prattle.
Well, Danny boy, and place you're calling. From glen to glen, went down the mountainside. That summer's gone, when all the roses are falling. Dead you must go, this you must go, but I must buy.
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan. And in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to Danny B Movies, where my guest and I, or guests, as today we have multiple, and I introduce or reintroduce the world at large to a cult film. And it is the first entry in Alien Month, a month voted by the patrons to happen this year. And we've got a hell of a lineup, as I've already revealed, but we're going to start here, right with these two fucking prawns. My two favorite guests, my two favorite people in the world, and we're going to be talking about District 9, the South African allegory for apartheid, but using the alien framing device and through an alien lens. So I have Mike of Genuine Chit Chat and Megan of everything else of Mike's world, of Disney discussions, of the Clone Wars conversations, you name it, she's on everything. And yes, we're going to be talking District 9, and this was again voted by the patrons as well. We had several choices where we had was it 10 Cloverfield Lane, and we also had Signs,
which Angry Andy's very angry about. We didn't do Signs.
You're telling me you can't shut up about it. Even on Frankenhooker, he was like, yeah, and he was referencing one that, and I was like, you're referencing Signs without saying Signs, and the way it was picked. So yeah, he's not happy. Don't worry, we've got a comment from him later about his disapproval and disappointment.
I haven't even seen Signs.
Neither have I. That's
and neither of you seen 10 Cloverfield Lane either. So
there we go.
This time next year.
Done that. This time next year. But we've both seen District 9 before, but we're here to talk about it. Mike, why did you pick District 9 with those other films for the patrons to pick?
Am I blowing my load of my opinion of the film straight from the bat, or am I trying to hide it behind some mystique?
Whatever you want to do. It's your platform.
Okay. I fucking adore this film. I think District 9 and Moon are two of the best films ever made, at least in the sci-fi sphere. And I think in general, I think they should both be included in 100 top film lists. And I think that in top sci-fi film lists, they definitely need to be in top 10. I can understand there are other films that maybe did things more unique or more something, but I just think for the both of them, behind the scenes, how little budget they had for what products they made. It was kind of like both of them are kind of passion projects. They're quite unique, but there's a lot of like homage to other stuff. They both have a lot to say, and it's quite, in both films, there's one character that takes the lead beyond anyone else. It's not like in most films, especially sci-fi, you've got the main star and then a couple of co-stars. But with District 9 and with Moon, it's one person and everyone else is like almost not even a co-star, barely supporting. It's kind of like a big gap. And I just think both Moon and District 9 are very human. So I keep mentioning Moon, even though we're not talking about Moon. Maybe in a little future podcast.
Oh yeah, could do.
Maybe. Maybe that's a tease. But I just District 9, because we watched Moon recently because Megan hadn't seen it, and I was like, I just love District 9. Any opportunity to watch it, and I just think I haven't met a single person who's watched it. I've seen some comments now, but I've not met a person who's watched it who didn't at least quite like it. And I just think it's a film that I'm baffled how it doesn't have more. It's kind of, as we were discussing off air, it was kind of like it's halfway between like a cult classic and a mainstream success, because basically everyone's heard of it. A lot of people have seen it, but not everyone. And I think it made a decent amount of money, but not like a colossal amount. It's kind of this weird middle thing, and everyone kind of knows who Neil Blomkamp is. And District 9 started that, so it's just I just want more people to talk about it. And I knew that Megan wouldn't hate me for choosing it for a pod after Visit a Queue. I had to somehow redeem myself.
We'll never forget.
No.
I was speaking to this is way after the 200th episode, but I've recorded that recently. We're doing this ahead of time, so it gives me a little bit of time to put it all together and release it nice and calmly. But I spoke to Derek today, and he was like, "So what was on your top 5 worst movies you've covered?" I'm assuming Visit a Queue, and I went, "Actually, no."
Cannibal Holocaust is probably. Oh wait, no, the 200. Sorry, of course you don't want to reveal. Sorry,
I don't want to reveal. This is yeah. Well, I don't want to spoil it for you. And
no, exactly. I don't want you to spoil it.
I know Megan. I know Megan is a religious listener of Spider-Man and the Secret.
Of all podcasts, every podcast she's ever guested on, she's listened to every single episode.
All the time, every day.
Time, wouldn't you?
You know, she leads. Such a sheltered life. She's like, I'm going to live vicariously through all these podcasts.
I do. It's true.
But Megan, Mike has clearly chosen this film with you in mind, because you were both going to do it together. So he's clearly picked a film that you have feelings about. But was it a bit too Willy Wonka for you? That's the question.
It is a weird film, but I really like this film.
From the first and second watch, because it's your second watch, isn't it?
Yes.
Did you remember much?
No, I didn't. Are we allowed to spoil things?
This is your Tonya Todd spoiler warning. So any spoilers after this, it's your own fault. So Megan, spoil away.
Okay. So obviously it says it right at the beginning that it's like a documentary, and they're talking about this guy that has done something. So you can kind of make the assumption that he ends up being a prawn, or an alien. But I forgot that. No. Sorry, I remember that happened. So I knew that he became fully alien at the end, but I didn't remember anything else about this film. So I didn't remember the relationship with him and is it Christopher?
Yeah, Christopher Jackson.
Yeah. So I didn't remember any of that. So it was kind of like rewatching it for the first time, a second time, except I knew that he eventually was fully prawn. But no, I enjoyed it both times. I really, really liked this film.
We quote at each other quite a lot in quite poor South African accents.
Yeah, quite regularly we call each other.
I should have apologized at the top for this, because there's going to be quite a few bad South African accents from all of us, I'm going to assume.
Yeah.
At some point.
You fucking prawn.
You fucking prawn. But again, I'm with you, Mike. Again, I'm going to blow my load. I do like this film, and I haven't seen it since it came out, so it was nice to revisit it. I don't know if it's quite as strong or as effective as when I watched it originally, but I still I enjoy the world. I enjoy the world building. I enjoy what it's trying to say. I think it's important. And it's a weird mix, because again, it's kind of being forgotten, but it's always being sort of remembered by people, or again quoted by people. So yeah, it's really interesting, and it's not it's kind of sci-fi. It's like hard sci-fi, but there's a relatability and a realism to it.
I call it dirty sci-fi almost.
Yeah,
which
grimy.
Blomkamp does quite a lot, where there's one element of his films that is science fiction-y and cool, but the rest of it is all grounded in reality. Whereas obviously something like Star Wars, for example, is all fantasy. Like every scene in Star Wars, there's not anything that connects it to air quotes the real world, really. And a lot of sci-fi kind of has footing in the real world, or some Wars in space. But the Blomkamp ones, I call it the Blomkamp trilogy almost, and I think they progressively get worse. But there's dirty sci-fi, one big concept in a fairly simple story, and kind of evolving from there.
Yeah, it's a bit like the Alien films, where it's like truckers but in space.
Yeah.
And it's greasy and grimy and dirty, and it has this kind of tactile feel. It's not this utopian sci-fi Star Trek world where everything's sleek and shiny and there's lots of J.J. Abrams lens flares and things. It's quite, like you said, it is quite different from our standard idea of sci-fi. But I like the grit and the grime of it and the dirt of it. Megan, how did you feel about the dirty, grimy, and again, I know it's your least favorite word, but gritty feel of this film?
Like the aesthetics of it and stuff.
Yeah, it's fine. When I watch films, I struggle to focus on those aspects unless it is something that's particularly stand out for me. So like if I'm watching Moana, for example, I'm going to pay attention to the aesthetics because aesthetically it's beautiful. Like
the main thing you talk about.
The water.
There you go.
Yeah. I struggle. It's like when we've done podcasts before where you talk about like the soundtrack and I'm just like, how the fuck can you remember the soundtrack? Like I think it works for this film because it's a mockumentary. It's about like evicting aliens. Like it is going to be as much as I hate to use my surname as an adjective, it is going to be gritty. So I think for what the film is, I think it works. Again, it's because where it's a documentary style, it makes me kind of think of The Office in the sense. No, I think it works. I like it.
I like the aesthetics as well, and I mean, I obviously love the feel, so I'm going to be a staunch defender of this movie. But like, it's such a passion project that Neil Blomkamp did, because when you look into it, and I'm sure we'll get into some of the other sort of, because you already mentioned apartheid and things, but like a lot of the filming was done in real people's shacks who are genuinely going through, at the time of filming, the government pushing them out to move them into another area. So the whole story of District 9 not only has happened numerous times in history and in South Africa and in Johannesburg, but literally when they were filming the movie, almost everything you see is, apart from Christopher Johnson's shack, all of it was genuinely, basically for a derogatory term, like a shanty town, like slums.
Yeah.
And when a lot of the meats that you see hung up, they weren't props. Almost all of them were already there. So it genuinely is. There's so much to it when you dig into it, and you're like, "God, this looks so real." And I think that the visuals of the prawns or the aliens, it works so well because they haven't done too much. They haven't done a George Lucas with CGI. They've just gone, everything is real. We're going to add like layers on top of stuff. Whereas with George Lucas Special Edition, it's like, hey, there's a blank space, put something in there. Whereas I feel with this film,
the animation of the prawns is really good.
That's the main thing.
They're really good.
It doesn't feel like this film is like 15 years old.
The eyes of them and like the emotion that they have behind the eyes, I think is really impressive.
I think that's important for the story as well, because we're supposed to identify with their plight and what they're going through. And when they were designing the aliens, like you said, they weren't going for this outlandish, crazy, like hench design or multiple arms or legs and things. Yeah, yes, they do have kind of multiple arms, kind of technically very small vestigial kind of arms. Because the way we relate, we find it hard if it's not like a bipedal character or creature, because otherwise we see it as like a dog, and people unfortunately abuse animals like that. As much as they love them, they will abuse them, and that's why they went with the design, because I think they were supposed to be originally the aliens were supposed to be like helpers to the main aliens, and then they said no, it needs to be a bit more kind of, they tried to balance, they tried to give it like a terrifying feel, yet a relatability as well, which I think was again just helped with the kind of allegory and the metaphor and all the things they're trying to say. But yeah, I was going to say Megan hit something right on the head, the nail on the head. The CGI is not dated a day. It looks incredible. I think that is helped probably because most of it's kind of steady cam and you can kind of manipulate that, and with the CGI, but also the quality kind of dips here and there, and depending on who's shooting what. But yeah, I agree. I think it looks gorgeous. Like every CGI shot, I wasn't like, oh, that's dated, that's aged, or oof, that looks horrible. There was not one moment where I was like, and this was out in 2009. I was still at uni at that point. So, it was a big, like, it's a long time ago. It doesn't feel that long ago.
Especially when you think about sci-fi and film, like it takes so long for things to catch up, and that's one of the things at sci-fi why some people are like, oh, why has sci-fi had another resurgence? It's like, because now we have the technology to make things look not terrible. Like the original Star Wars trilogy looks great, excluding some of the special things that have been added, but that's because actually it's just loads of humans running around in very, very well made outfits, and then a lot of miniatures, a lot like stop motion-y stuff, and done very carefully. So much stop motion, so much puppetry, so much this, so much that. And then the prequels was they were almost two ahead. All the technology in the prequels, what George was pushing for, changed the whole industry, but it was about 5 to 6 years too early for what it could do.
Yeah.
Whereas this film isn't stretching to reach something. It's doing the one main thing, which is make the prawns look amazing. And they do that. And it works so well, and the lighting's great. And I think that part of it came from because this film was originally going to be the Halo Combat Evolved movie. So Blomkamp, one of the ways he kind of got seen, he made a Halo short film about, I think it's about the ODST or something. It was something like that. It was a short Halo film, and Peter Jackson picked it up and was going to produce it. They're going to make a Halo film, and things kept changing, and it went through the standard thing of almost dying. And then Peter Jackson was like, look, this Neil Blomkamp guy is really good. He's got some great ideas. We've kind of got the framework of a sci-fi project here. I'll give you the budget, some of the things we've been working on. And I think that's where a lot of the aliens changed, because, you know, with the Halo movies, you've got the elites are the big ones and the brutes, and then the grunts are the small ones and things like that. And I wonder if they kind of went, well, we've got all this okay looking CGI for all these different aliens. Why don't we just condense it to one type, make it more simple? And I think that the budget of this film, because a lot of it is kind of sort of bled from the defunct Halo project, I think that it kind of has a leg up that most films of this size just wouldn't have, especially Peter Jackson, because obviously he's not quite as far as like James Cameron, but he's at the helm of a lot of special projects when it comes to film. And
Weta did the effects, so they're like the guys to go to for like special effects. They were even doing Avatar, but I think they managed to somehow do the effects for the film. It still works to this day. Absolutely, all of it still works. Them spoilers with the mech suit at the end. You know, all of that. And you can kind of see some of the Halo-esque designs in the weaponry. So I'm like, I could definitely see this. There was back in the 80s, they were going to do a sequel to the Masters of the Universe film, but it fell apart, mostly because that film didn't do so well.
He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, right?
That's correct, yeah. But one of the directors was like, well, you've made all this stuff for it, even though you're not doing it. So why don't I use it? And then he went on and did the Jean-Claude Van Damme film called Cyborg. Fuck all to do with Masters of the Universe.
Never heard of that film.
It's I don't think you'd like it. It's definitely a Chris and Dave film, definitely. But yeah, it's even I'm a bit like, this is not great. But that's kind of sounds like a similar idea that came about. I have to appreciate, you know, that Peter Jackson. I love his earlier stuff. You know, Lord of the Rings is okay. I need to revisit them eventually. I will get round to them at some point. But I love his kind of grimier, dirtier, grittier stuff. Again, gritty. Sorry,
Brain Dead and stuff like that.
Brain Dead. I absolutely adore Brain Dead.
I've not seen it. I've heard a lot about it. I want to watch it, but I know that Megan's going to absolutely despise it.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
She's going to hate it.
Oh, it's weird. It's definitely weird, but in all the best possible ways.
I've seen Meet the Feebles, and that was weird and not very.
That one I haven't seen.
It's very weird. You see giant puppet hippopotamus tits for a lot of the film, and it's just like, what is happening?
That's my kink. That's my kink.
Hippo titties.
I'm in. The hippopotitties. That's what I want to see. Next year, I'm going to be doing some banned films with Tonya. We've not decided what we're doing yet, but the theme month this year it's aliens. Next year it's going to be banned movies. This is a banned movie in Nigeria. Yeah, so within the film, we have this group of Nigerians come in, criminals who are trying to manipulate the situation, trying to get alien technology, trying to make money, or kind of get some sort of power or control over the aliens. Sell them cat food, which they love, which came from like the idea that people fish with cat food tins to like catch prawns. They are depicted in the film as criminals and cannibals, and Nigeria took issue with this and banned the film, and it is still banned in Nigeria. Obviously, this film is an allegory for equality and cooperation and civil rights and everything that's going on in South Africa, the history that South Africa has. The aliens are quite representative. Even their dialect has clicking in it that a lot of African dialects have. Zulu is one of them, and there's a few others as well, and that's why they chose that. So it's interesting that the idea of the film is talking about equality and is very much promoting it and telling us to kind of look at our world with different eyes, be a bit more sensitive to different people's plight. What did we think about the depiction of the Nigerian characters in there? Did you think it was offensive, or did you think it was problematic at all, Megan?
I can see why it would be offensive. I mean, I personally didn't have any issue with it, but then I'm not Nigerian. So like it's hard for me to sit here and be like,
sure.
oh, I'm fine with it because it's not affecting me.
Mm.
But there are gonna be gangs and that kind of I feel like in any kind of scenario where there's something like that, there are going to be people that are going to be taking advantage regardless of what their nationality is.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think it worked with the film, but I can understand why.
Was the only Nigerians in the film are portrayed as?
Well, it's the only other people. Well, apart from people from South Africa and apart from the prawns, it's the only other nationality.
Yeah.
Pretty much. The MNU is a little bit of a mix, but I think there's only one American in the whole film.
Oh, I suppose. Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah,
as you say, though, it is primarily, it's kind of like the South Africans, Nigerians, prawns.
I guess it's the fact that the only Nigerian people that you see in this movie happen to be big, like, crime
crime bosses. I think in most films there's like one positive portrayal of a certain group of people if there's a negative portrayal to kind of balance the equation, I think. But there is no kind of positive. Kind of reminded me of Watchmen, when spoilers for Watchmen, but the world unites against an alien threat, like because they're on the edge of nuclear war, like the Soviets, the Americans, the doomsday clock is ticking away, and that's the whole plan. Is they go, oh well, it's an alien threat. Oh, we've got to come together and fight this alien threat, and only then can we, be one nation, one world. And it's a similar thing here because you have black South Africans talking very kind of xenophobically, for lack of a better word, towards the aliens, towards these, and they go, oh, and again, those horrible kind of like things, the bigoted things that are coming out of the mouths. It's like, oh Jesus, and again, like our main character, Vicus, played by Sharlto Copley, from the get-go seems like a lovely guy. He's a nice guy. He's doing his job. He's got a family. He's in a privileged position. He's the daughter of his boss, and he gets a promotion. But even there's kind of hints that he's not so great because he's already saying the word prawn, which is a racist term in this, towards the aliens, and he's just using that in quite kind of casual conversation, not like it's okay. Like it's kind of like systemic racism. He doesn't quite know how racist he is until he's kind of confronted with it, and is kind of integrated into this other society as well. Sharlto Copley, he did the short film. I think it's Living or Alive in Johannesburg, which was
I've never seen it. I only found out about it after doing a bit of research after watching this.
Exactly. I would like to give that a go, but he had no acting experience before that, which I think is incredible. Seeing what he
and a lot of his ad-lib
accomplished. Yeah.
A lot of the documentary talking camera stuff. A lot of that with him and with some of the other interviewer people was ad-libbed. It was just like, here's a loose idea, kind of go for it. And you're like, Sharlto Copley is one of those, I think, ideal roles where when you're so unknown, there's no baggage of what you were.
But I also think it's easier to ad-lib in this kind of style film or way that you're doing it, because you can just roll with it. It's a lot easier, I think, to kind of make stuff up when you're doing a mockumentary.
And that's the cheat when you've got a camera facing you and you're acknowledging the camera. If you do something weird or like human, it makes sense. That's when a lot of the funny scenes in The Office or Parks and Rec or whatever happen, is because someone's talking to the camera. It's like, Jim from the US office. Yeah. He does the camera look. And that's iconic because it's that little nod and that little thing. And I think that's what makes this film work. But did you like, I cut across, did you like Sharlto Copley?
Yeah, I enjoyed his
because you had some comments. Well, I meant you had some comments on the character itself as it went on.
Oh yeah, so I agree with you because Dan, because at the start you think he's a nice guy, but then towards like when he's like seeking desperation of not wanting to be turned into full prawn, like he just becomes a dick. Like he's just like, this other person or being has helped you out, like really helped you out.
Christopher Johnson, the main.
And then you've just like double crossed him
in the ship bit. That's when you were like, I hate him. But...
Yeah, it's when. So I didn't remember anything to do with Christopher. I didn't remember what happened to him. I didn't even remember that he existed. His little son. But yeah, when he was getting onto the ship and he was leaving him behind to get like beaten up by the
Army guy.
army people.
Hmm.
I was just like, you're such a dickhead. I was like, you're actually a nasty person.
Even before that, like they're going through the slum, and he's literally finds these like egg sacks for the aliens.
that bit written down.
And he literally is like laughing
He's
and joking
laughing at the fact that they're all popping.
And he calls it an abortion.
Yeah, he calls it an abortion, and then they light it on fire. He, when he goes over to Christopher Johnson, the other character who is friends with Christopher Johnson, he's inadvertently caused his death, and then when the I think a little creature, he sees the sun, and he's trying to, and that's when he finds the little like
you little runt.
Little
Well,
runt,
He calls him as well.
Yeah, and he's like, come here, and he's got like, have a little sweetie. Look, I give them the little sweetie.
I was trying to be nice to you.
Only the accents will come out.
Here we go. But yeah, like, and he's manipulating Christopher Johnson.
Yeah.
Like, he goes, "Oh, this one's a bit smarter." He's like whispering, and you're like, "You're a fucking horrible man. Like, you're really disgusting in these scenes." But again, he's doing it in a kind of a jokey way. It's like it's wonderful character work because you like him to a point, but you also see what he is and what he's doing and the privilege he has. And then you can see his frustration, like it's natural frustration. He gets attacked and gets hurt, he gets abused, he gets things thrown at him. People are like dying left, right, and center. So you can understand the poor guy who comes with him. He's like, "Oh, I haven't got a vest," and he's like, "You don't need the vest," and he's strapping his on like even tighter.
Yeah,
and everyone's like dying and stuff, and he breaks his arm, and yeah. So like, but yeah, he's shown to. I don't think you really notice it maybe on the first watch necessarily, but when I watched it this time, I was like, I've taken like major notes on this because I was like, oh yeah, he is a piece of shit, and then and then it's when when he slowly begins his transformation. That's when he kind of he wasn't aware of how poorly he might have had a few like arguments and physical kind of violence a little bit here and there, but when he experiences it from himself, that's when his perspective changes and he's getting shocked and forcing to shoot the aliens as well. But it's just because they want to use the weapons, because the weapons is based on the aliens' DNA, so humans can't use them. But yeah, like it's a wonderful, just it's such a character-driven film while still having so much going on in this universe. I love how vague it is about everything. Like, we don't know why they're here. We don't know what happened to this command module. We don't know, what their intention is. Have they been abandoned? Who, what was their reason? What is, spoilers, but what's Christopher Johnson going to do? Is he going to come back? Is he going to abandon them? Is he going to leave
got a
it?
whole thing on that. I think that near the end we
he's
can go on
going
a
to
whole
save
theories.
them all.
Well, that's
Christopher's going to stick to his word. He's a goodie.
That's lovely, but if I was in his position, I would firebomb the planet if I was Christopher Johnson.
all of his friends are there.
No, I know. I mean, he come down, save his.
Yeah.
Save
Did
the
he?
fellows, but
Does he say that in the film that he's definitely going to save them? I don't know if he does.
he says he's going to return.
No,
Right.
he said that he needs to save his people.
He says, "I can't let my people be the subject of medical experimentation, so that takes priority.
Okay.
I'll come back in 3 years."
Yeah, no, the 3 years was to go back. Flidger back into human.
He says, 3 years till he can focus on him. But he says it's going to be 3 years for him to go to his home world, to come back, save his people. Then after that, but I think he will save his people. But I think the question is, what's he going to do to the humans? That's the question.
Oh well, fuck the humans.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I glibly said he'll fire. If I was him, I'd firebomb Earth.
Nah.
Because
maybe
Christopher's going to stick to his word.
Maybe he would use that chemical agent that Vickers has and turn them all into an alien.
That would be. I mean, that's a good shout. That'd stop. I mean, what's the best way to stop racism? Is turn everyone the same race, basically.
Everyone into fucking
in theory.
fronts.
But the problem is with that is, there's a lot of individuals I've spoken to who are, say, black individuals. They say black culture there is it's I don't know how else to phrase it, so apologies if insensitive, but black on black racism for certain individuals who are black who are not black enough. And that happens in black communities.
There's an example of that in Glee.
Oh, is there?
Okay.
Yeah, there's a character that one of his parents is white, one of his parents is black, and I think the non-black parent is also Jewish. So he's like kind of like half black, half Jewish, and he gets bullied for not really fitting into a specific mold.
Yeah, there's friends of ours who've discussed that kind of thing of being not black enough for certain things, but then too black for others. And it's a very it's a very unpleasant situation to be in, understandably.
I think the term might be like kind of tribalism, I guess. Like you're wanting to be part of a certain group or identifying with a certain group, and then the other group is like, it's like football fans, isn't it? If you want to use that as a
even locally where we are, like Manchester versus Liverpool or Southampton versus Portsmouth, like it's
Manchester City versus Manchester United. You know what I mean? Those fans, like, I'm not a football fan. I live in Manchester. I experience it every weekend. It's just like
that's the South American mate.
I get it. I get it at work because where my school is closer to Portsmouth and I live in Southampton, I also don't care about football. And the kids know this, but they'll be like, Miss, if you were going to support a football team, would it be Southampton and Portsmouth? I'm like, neither. And they're like, yeah, but if you had to pick one, I'm like, obviously, then I'd pick Southampton because I live in Southampton. And they're like, you're a scummer. I'm like, am I though?
Yeah.
You're a scummer?
Is it scummer? It's scummer and skates, isn't it, for Southampton and Portsmouth?
I don't know.
I can't remember which way.
I was born in Portsmouth and lived in Southampton. So
anyway,
who fucking cares?
But I was going to say, going back to Sharlto Copley's Vickers character, I think this was the main watch I realized he was a piece of shit. And I think this is a very powerful allegory for basically white people being racist without necessarily realizing it. Because the thing is, with almost every white person will agree Nazis are bad because they're the extreme. They want to overtly kill people who are not like them. Now, the majority of racists don't want to overtly kill and exterminate a race. Most of the time, it's a degree of superiority. And what happens in this film is what it shows you is to begin with, he's like, oh yeah, the prawns, they're having a good time. And then his patience with them is so short. Like he's like, look, I'm trying to help you. And he knows he's not trying to help
But it's
them.
also the fact that they're not even given a choice.
Well, that is a part of it, but that's part of the system. But even him as an individual, he's like, come on, I want to help you. And then as soon as they're like, there's something wrong here, he's like, I'll fucking get you. And it's that kind of the change of immediately where it's, I'm above you. Me as a human is more valuable than the life of a prawn. And I think that's what kind of happens, which is because there's certain terms at the start of this, there's video footage used, and I'm fairly sure one or two pieces of the footage is not filmed of District 9. It's actually filmed when the apartheid and stuff is happening. And some of the comments made aren't about prawns. It's actually black people talking about white people talking about black people. And actually, they've used the footage very cleverly because there is that kind of thing of like, I don't want to kill them. I just want them to be away from me. Or like, oh yeah, they can live around us, but they can't come to our supermarkets. They can't go to our schools. They can't use our drinking water because they're going to make it dirty. Or they're just all crime ridden and they're just mindless animals. And a lot of these terms are used today, very unfortunately, but you go back a few decades when our sort of parents were growing up. And I'm sure we have caught certain family members occasionally making offhand comments that if you confronted them, they'd be like, I'm not racist. I value everyone. But they make the odd comment and you're like, you are, even one like this, which I've heard family members say, and it's very hard to call out. And it's the kind of thing that they go, God, there's a lot of black people in this restaurant. And you're like,
why do you need to comment on
that? Whether or not that's the case, what difference does that make? Or I had another family member who said, yeah, I probably wouldn't go to Jamaica because there's a lot of black people. And I'm like, what the? And I'm not racist. I'm like, you just said you won't go somewhere because of, and it's things like that where if you ask that individual, they don't think that they're racist. They don't, if you said to them, would you want all of a certain race of people out of the country? They go, no, of course, no. They're really valuable. But it's always this kind of thing of, oh, they do it in this film as well. It's like, oh, some of the prawns, yeah, they're really hardworking. Some of them, some of them aren't that violent. Oh, some of them, and it's them. It's that term them, and that's the big. That's true racism. Is when you don't look at everyone as a human. You are specifically saying that someone else, the other, is different to us. And it's these little. It's not even microaggressions because in this film it's kind of almost macroaggressions. But it is that kind of thing of saying something which is just enough where if you said it at a dinner party and someone called you out on it, you could fall back and go, no, I'm not racist. But obviously, if you're being like a Nazi, you can't defend that. And I think that's where racism thrives, is it's not in the extremes. It's actually in these places where it's normalized. And that's the problem. And that's what this film does so well.
I always feel like with arguments like people that are against immigration, if you kind of dig at that, it just like very slowly it just becomes the argument falls away, and it's just like I don't like this color people or this color people.
And British people are terrible for that.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the
And,
worst
you know,
racism in Britain, I'd say.
and
is
I've
immigration.
you know, it's that famous saying, I'm not racist, but
As
Mhm.
soon as
then
you
you-
say "but" after anything,
yeah,
it
and
negates
then you're like-
everything that you've just said.
and then I was like, right, you're going to say something horrifically racist right now. This is something you are going to say, and you're going to prove your point.
It's like when you went,
whatever that
I was
is.
like, I don't want to say anything offensive, but, and it's like, but you're
Yeah,
just going to go say
you're
something
going to say
offensive,
it,
then aren't you?
you know, and you could, like, this film is, again, like we said, it's an allegory, but you could place any kind of marginalized people in the alien's place.
100%.
And the second you hear that language, you know, you go, oh fucking hell, like, you know, if you just changed it to, you know, whatever, you know, be it a transgender person, non-binary person, black person, you know, whatever, you know, a Muslim, once that language is used, you just think fucking hell. But that's why the film is so clever, and it's doing it in this way. And again, I'll talk about it, like Rhea talks about Gone Girl or Mad Max every podcast. I feel like I'm talking about Paul Verhoeven every single podcast, and his political satire and his work. And again, this is very much that same thing. Like,
Say, what kind of stuff has he made?
Robocop, Starship Troopers.
2 films Megan's not seen. I keep saying I want to show you Starship Troopers, to be fair. And to be fair, Total Recall is a banger, and
they're
man.
all-
I mean,
they're
all
all
3 of them.
They're
All
all good.
3 are 3 of probably.
Basic Instinct. Have you seen that one?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. Showgirls.
Nope.
No.
Well, I'll show you Starship Troopers at some
God.
point, and
That-
I'll
I
show
mean,
you
that-
Robocop.
that's a-
Basic Instinct, is that the one about the rabbit?
Bunny
Isn't-
Boiler.
Yeah, the one. Yeah.
No. So
That's
that's
cool.
Fatal Attraction.
Right.
Very similar though. Very similar in a lot of ways. But yeah, maybe that's a podcast for us. We could explore Paul Verhoeven's film.
I would love that. I've
Through
got
Megan's
some on
eyes.
DVD.
I think Rhea would enjoy that one as well. So maybe that's an idea.
Starship
for us.
Troopers. I'm tempted just to make the next
No.
film I get you to watch. It's one of my
Hey, that's-
favorites.
Anyway,
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
that'll be my request for the Patreon is Starship Troopers. That's going to be my request for Megan and Mike to do. I want to hear Megan's thoughts on that. And because recently, you know, people are like, it's not political at all, Starship Troopers. So that's been all over Twitter. And I'm like, you are blind, sir. You are blind. It is the most obvious allegory. It's like this allegory in this film. It's not subtle at all. It is right there in your face. And if you're too stupid to notice it, there's something wrong with you. But yeah, again, Sharlto Copley, just phenomenal. What do we think to his? Unfortunately, I don't think she gets enough kind of screen time. I imagine there was a lot of stuff that probably ended up on the cutting room floor. But what did you think to his wife and her use in the film? Did we need a bit more of their relationship? Do you think?
I feel like she was just used as a pawn, really, wasn't she? To try, because obviously she was used so that they could get the signal for his location.
A pawn for the
Or a
pawn.
prawn.
She was used as a prawn.
Because yeah, her dad's his boss, isn't it?
Oh, he's fucking horrible as well.
He's a
Dad.
His
dickhead.
dad. Oh,
Fucking
that scene
hell.
where he's in the operating chair and he's like trying to grab him, going, help me. And he just looks at him and goes,
But also, like, my question is do they know that they're related? Like, those people that are experimenting on him, do they know that he works for the company or worked for the company and that he's the, like, big boss man's son-in-law?
yeah, he's all over the. His
They
face,
must do. They
his
must do.
face is over, like, when he gets promoted, it's kind of like local news because he's like that. That's what their party's about when he comes home and he's
No,
ill,
I
because-
know. when he comes home, he's like, I'm gonna shit myself. And then the lights.
Honey, I think I've left my pants.
the lights turn on.
And he turns around with shock.
Yeah.
He's like, oh.
He's such a good actor as well. His facial.
Oh.
Sorry, the wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was all right. I thought she was a bit bland, if I'm being honest. Yeah, I thought, well, as before we knew that she was being used for the purpose of finding out where he was, I assumed that would be the case. As soon as like she had that conversation and she was like, "Oh, I don't want anything to do with you," and then later on she was like, "Oh, I miss you," blah 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 blah, and I was like, something's amiss here.
Not quite.
I don't know. She's not really in it that much.
No, I think I could have done with maybe a bit more depth because I think he's supposed to represent that perfect kind of picket fence life that he's got the good job, he's got the he's got the promotion, he's happy, maybe a child on the way potentially as well.
Do you know about the subtle Easter egg background thing of that?
Go on, Mike. You tell him. You tell him.
There's one, I think it's right at the end. There's a scene where she's sort of looking in the mirror and doing stuff, and on, like, I think it's out of focus in the shot on the mirror.
Oh, there was a
there's an image of-
sonogram.
Yeah.
I saw that on the mirror at the end when she was looking at the flower that he'd
God,
made.
and
her.
you say, how do people remember soundtracks? You remember like something that's on the screen for like a second.
A blurry
I still
image.
have never seen it. I only know it because
I
looked
saw
up
it in the
stuff.
background. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, there's a
I've watched this film
sonogram.
like 10 times. I never noticed it. I only picked
Oh,
it
is
up
that
'cause I saw
is
on
it meant to
IMDb.
suggest that she's currently pregnant?
I think
Yeah.
that's hinting. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, I saw that. This is the thing, is that I notice things, but they don't click in my head.
Yeah, I wanted people to know that sometimes it seems like I'm talking over Megan, but which I do
Which she
occasionally do
is
sometimes.
all the time.
But a lot of the time, it's actually I know Megan's got an interesting opinion on something, and I'm trying to ease her into it rather than just going, "Hey, Megan, what's this opinion?" And she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." I'm trying to
Yeah.
lean you
We're
in.
coaxing it out of her. Coaxing it out of her.
I think the wife kind of serves for me. Yeah, she's not in it enough, definitely. However, I would say I think after Sharlto Copley, I think the next person who gets the most screen time is probably that army guy who's a piece of shit, the sadistic one. So although I would think she should have had more screen time, definitely, I think it's not as egregious as it could have been because no one gets much screen time apart from Sharlto Copley. So I can kind of be like, maybe it's just no one gets that much screen time. But for me, she represents hope. She represents the life he wants, and he just wants to do right by her. And like at the start of the film, he's like so happy about his wife, and he's talking about, and he's like, "Oh, have you seen the picture of my wife?"
That was right. That's at the end.
Oh,
where
but they
yeah,
put
it's
it
the
in.
clip at the end where he's
Yeah.
like, "Do you want to see a picture of my wife?"
And how
It makes
proud
me
he is, how
sad.
excited he is, and he just loves her so much, and he genuinely cares about her more than anything. And like he wants all of this stuff with NMU to go well, to impress her dad, to impress her, make sure they've got a family and he can support her. But for me, she represents the hope, the last thing that connects him to humanity, because like at the very end,
because he's still making her the gifts and
the
dropping them
roses
off on
and
the
stuff,
doorstep.
the metal roses and stuff, and she's the anchor point. If she didn't exist, he wouldn't care about going back to being human. He would just.
I reckon if she didn't exist, he probably wouldn't be living. I think
you're right.
I think he probably would have prevented himself from living. He would have committed suicide because I just don't think he would have, like, realistically, right, if Christopher comes back and is able to transform him back from being this alien into human form, like, if there is no hope, what's the point?
Yeah.
If he's got nothing to go back to, what's the point? So I think
that's why I think that's when he becomes a dickhead, like you mentioned, where he's like, because he loses that hope. He goes, "This was my only thing, and I'm helping you for no reason."
It's just sheer desperation.
It's almost he's doing it for her. Now it doesn't excuse the actions, you know.
No.
It's a classic villain trope, isn't it?
As soon as he does it, though, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You don't know how to fly that ship. You don't know anything about that ship. Like, you're actually causing detriment to everyone by doing that.
It's unfortunate that although that does happen that way, his bad action actually inadvertently makes the aliens able to survive, because where he flies the ship and it crashes down, it lands in the tractor beam area and therefore can get beamed up. And then obviously he's there with the mech suit thing, stopping the.
Well, they're not in the tractor beam area because the thing moves.
No. They have to move the ship, don't they?
Yeah.
Because it's disabled, so they manage to operate the.
But it's near
controls.
But it's near enough, because what they say is when he first takes off, the news reporter woman who's commentating on some of the footage says they're going towards the center of, because the ship is colossal. It's miles long, I think.
It's the mothership.
They would need to be closer for it to move at that speed or to get to them that quickly. So yeah, they do.
It's kind of tripping and falling into actually helping out, because if Christopher Johnson had just gone up by himself, he would have. There's a chance that missile that hit wouldn't have just hit one of the side things. Might have hit the main thing. You know, it's not. My lesson here isn't don't be horrible to people because you can inadvertently make something good happen. That's not the message at all. But it's that thing of, I think the desperation of him doing that. You're dead right there, Dan. It was for his wife.
Yeah, I think you don't get where he gets in the film without that hope at the end, because otherwise he's just and this kind of represents what the aliens are after. They want the idealized life, and he has it, and he lost it, you know, because of his interaction, because he was a dick. And I'd argue he's less of an anti-hero in this, but more of an anti-villain. You know what I mean? If you know,
that's a good from the Prawn perspective. He's definitely a villain, and then as it goes on, they kind of realize he's not as bad as they thought. He's the faceless corporate man.
Well, from
we see
either
it from the
party,
other.
they think the other people are the villain.
Yeah. And they make out. I love that they make out, and he's like, they're like, oh, we don't know how he got this way. He must have been having sex with the aliens. And it's like, not fucking a prawn. I would never have sex with a prawn. I would never do pornographic things with a prawn.
I would never do one of those things.
Those things.
My other thing is that why would you press the button on something you don't know what the fuck it is? Like he's fiddling around with that thing.
Well, I think it's because he's an idiot. Like,
well, yeah, obviously, but like
he's genuinely like. I think that Vickers.
He's hungry. He's tired. He's stressed.
I think
he's transforming.
His name, I think, is either Vickers or it's the Demir part. I think in the native language, I think in South African or one of the other languages,
Afrikaans.
it actually means stupid, bumbling buffoon, that kind of thing. Or he had a name that they initially had that got tweaked into this name. So I think the idea is he's kind of almost like a puppy, kind of stupid, and bright-eyed and idealistic and stuff. But the darkness really comes through. There's one line that I always remember hitting me quite hard, and it's when he talks to Christopher Johnson and the kid, and Johnson's like, well, we're going to District 10 or whatever it's called. We're going to this nice place. And he's like,
when they're looking at the leaflet,
like,
and he's like, no, you don't want to go there. It's like a concentration
exactly.
camp.
Yeah.
The tents are smaller than the shacks that you've got.
So he knows that, but he doesn't actually he doesn't.
Yeah, but he doesn't give a
himself.
shit because I mean, even at the beginning, they're like, "Oh, they need to get their signature," and then like one of them smacks it down. He's like, "Oh yeah, we got his scroll. And I'm like, "Well, no, you haven't given." Yeah. It's like because obviously the Christopher Johnson is more switched on, as he says. He's like, "Yeah, but you're supposed to give us 24 hours notice." Like they obviously can't understand what he's saying to them, but like he only when he starts becoming a prawn that he can understand him.
I think he understands a little bit because. I think they can understand the language because they've been there for it's about 20 years.
No. The prawns can understand the humans, but not the other way around.
No, he can understand a
little bit.
Broken prawn.
Because when they're sorting out the dropship thing, he goes, "You need to slow down with the clicks there."
Exactly.
Because he's like, I can understand.
But I thought that was after he'd started transitioning.
It is.
It was, but I think. Again, I think he does understand it to a degree because he has to be able to communicate with them to do his job to at least a bare minimum, if not by body language and physical, maybe some form of sign language. I think he has to. I think it's kind of to reference Star Wars yet again. I think it's a Chewbacca thing where someone has to translate it or someone has to kind of go, "What is he saying?" And then Sharlto Copley's character goes, "Oh well," and his reaction, tells us what that alien has said. I think it's that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't think he's that good at it. Like he can't speak in the same language, but he can understand what's being said to a degree.
Get the gist in a way.
Yeah, I mean, Megan, you are the master of many languages, so you should know this. You should know how to speak. I
want to show. Have you seen the film Arrival?
Yes, great film. Great.
Yeah, I want to show it to Megan because I think that'll connect with her really well. It's Denis Villeneuve, so Dune guy and Blade Runner 2049.
Doesn't mean anything to me.
The director who made Dune.
You're just saying words, Mike. You're just saying words.
Mike does this all the time, and he'll be like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna watch this film. It's got this person and this person." I'm like, that means fuck all to me.
But some do.
Like very.
You know Tarantino. You know David Fincher.
If you say Wes Anderson, I know that I probably won't like it.
Yeah. You know what? I'm with you on that. That's my kind of weird that I don't love.
Yeah, no, they're too quirky.
That's indie quirky weird.
Happy weird. For me. Dan doesn't like happy weird.
But no, I don't remember names of people.
Well, that's why I said Denis Villeneuve. He made Dune is obviously the main thing people know him from, but also he made Blade Runner 2049.
If only you guys could see Megan's face.
It's pretty.
I have seen Dune. I do like it.
Yeah,
completely bemused. Like I don't know. I don't care. Whatever.
Arrival is that film. It's one of those sci-fi films I really want to show you because it's all about language.
Yeah, it's about communication. Yeah, and won't spoil it here. It's too good. But I went to see that in Thailand, and my sister came out of it, and I said to my dad, "Yeah, I really like that. It was really interesting." They had aircon as well, so I was kind of falling asleep a little bit. So it was a bit of like dream logic for me going on. So I was like, "Yeah, this is really good." But I remember my sister came out and she was like, "Why didn't they just blow up the aliens? They should have just shot the aliens. I don't know why they didn't. I don't understand." And I'm like, Sophie, it's not that kind of film. It's not that alien kind of film. But I like Transformers. That's like that. And I was like, yes, I know.
She doesn't listen to the podcast, by the way.
No, I don't think so.
Hope not on this one.
Sorry, I've said worse. She has a history of physically kind of assaulting me as children, so don't worry about it. She'll probably hit me again for some reason, but we're on it. We can make fun of each other, and it's fine. We're at that stage of maturity, I believe, that we can still take the piss out of each other. But yeah, so I was kind of like, yeah, I get what you mean, Sophie, because Hollywood is designed to tell us to shoot aliens. But I don't know if she likes this film or not. But maybe it could surprise me. But there is that element of action. There is that action kind of element to it, and I think a lot of people were critical of the third act in this. I think Roger Ebert especially was quite critical of it just becoming again a kind of an action movie. But no, for me, I think it kind of works. I think they explore the world pretty succinctly. Like there's a lot to it, and there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of, again, a lot of vagary to it. And they shot 5 different endings as well, I read.
I read that, and one of them they're never going to show anyone. It's only like the director and Sharlto, because apparently it was really embarrassing. And they said the only comment
disgusting
or
dirty.
Something.
Yeah,
dirty.
That was
dirty.
Apparently, Sharlto Copley got really, really dirty, and that's all he'll say about it. We don't know if they means dirty as in saying sexual things, or covered in mud, or what. But they made a few.
Maybe he gets pornographic with one of the prawns.
Maybe
his little penis flips off and becomes a prawn. A prawn cochnea.
Prawn.
No, what's it called? A cloaca. Prawn cloaca.
Cloaca.
A nice little prawn cloaca. Your little baby comes off, and then you've got a nice little prawn cloaca. Oh, that's accent.
To all our South African listeners, again, I apologize.
I'm not doing a South African accent. I'm doing an impression of Sharlto Copley.
Yes, that's what I've been doing.
I'm in no way trying to be insensitive. I just the way that Sharlto Copley talks in this, I absolutely adore.
Because sometimes he doesn't sound South African. There's
No, he
points
sounds
where
like
he
Scottish,
sounds Irish. Yeah.
He's proper South
I
African.
thought the same thing.
You hear him in other films, he talks exactly, but slightly less like wide,
stereotypical.
But he is, because he does put. I think he does put it on quite a lot.
Oh yeah,
kind of. The John Smith in a sense, because I think also I'm remembering now Van der Meer I think is a really, really common surname in South Africa, but I think Vickers comes from a word meaning kind of stupid and stuff. So that's kind of like a stupid John Smith almost. But can we, I'm sure, Dan, you've got certain things mentioned, but obviously there's a transformation. But there's 2 things I really want to talk about, which is the transformation and going into the medical lab stuff.
Oh, God.
I didn't know if that was next up in your list.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
So, I mean, the medical, I do want to talk about the transformation, because I think for me, that's the thing that reminds me the most. When I think of this film, I think of there's emotional beats, but his transformation, even though it's very minor, like the fingernail bits coming off and putting out his teeth, the medical center part, when he first gets captured and he goes in there and he's trying out the weapons and they're shocking him and stuff. One of the things I think that really shows him as a human, and where it shows that, yes, he is clearly actually a racist because he's against the race of aliens, but he's not like overtly sadistic like the soldier guy is, who says I love killing prawns and is overtly trying to beat people and saying he loves his job but he's shooting people in the head. Vickers does want to kind of be a good person, but his own prejudices and kind of a lot of the way the environment has been for the last 2 decades in South Africa and Johannesburg has kind of shaped him in a way, and he's not really thought for himself a lot, which I think is kind of links to what you guys have said about he couldn't survive by himself without his wife and things like that. But when he's at the gun and he's shooting them and stuff, and then the alien walks out with a cross on his back, and he's like, I won't do it. He's like, I will not do this. What's he done? He's like, get out of here. What are you doing? I'll shoot anything else. I'll shoot the pig. I'll do anything. You can't shoot him. It's not fair. Get him. And it's like, that bit really emotionally resonates with me, because I think that's a time where one really has to confront one's own prejudices in a lot of ways. And it is that kind of thing where it is like he's willing to put them in concentration camps. He's willing to, abort their babies. When they show violence, he's willing to kill them. But the line he won't cross is murdering someone who has done nothing wrong, who even had the thing that breaks my heart is the cross on its back. And I'm like, that's so fucked. And I know that historically, a lot of nations have committed a lot of atrocities and used a lot of native people for things like target practice and other kind of horrendous shit. But that bit when the alien walks out and he's got a cross on its back, and then Vickers is like, I'm not doing it, I refuse. That moment really resonates with me. That really makes me feel like emotional in this film. And it's just so well done, where you see the character really, and again, Sharlto Copley, I mean, for his first film,
oh god,
this is a masterclass of acting. Like all, I know a lot of it is some of his makeup and when he's like really ill and all, but he goes in on it. Every scene is like, if you said to me he's been in acting school for a decade, I genuinely believe you. I think he does such an incredible job. I don't know if you have any comments on that, Megan. I know you're looking up Vickers' name.
I was looking up Vickers' name. But no, I think he's really good.
But the scene where he's like the alien walks out,
the whole acting of when he's like
in the chair thing,
when he's being held against his will and essentially being tortured is, I think his acting is phenomenal. But I think his whole like character development in this film is really good.
Oh, fantastic. And again, like you said, there's kind of peaks and troughs. Like we're starting to kind of like him, then we don't. We're starting to kind of like him again, then we don't. Starting to kind of like him. And then there is that question, does he fully redeem himself at the end? Does he fully, does he deserve what he gets at the end? Or again, we don't know particularly what all these different endings were or how it ended. Could it have been a worse ending? Could it have been a less sentimental ending that what we got? But yeah, like it's a wonderful kind of journey, and I think that's probably why his wife is kind of the idealized dream and hope, is that because we spend time with him and seeing the decline, the fall, and his Cronenbergian fly transformation. Again, shit that I love, by the way, like all that
The
body horror
Fly,
stuff.
You've seen that.
The Fly with Jeff Goldblum, the Thing, the body horror. I think,
body horror in general.
the prosthetics on his hand. Oh my god, phenomenal!
It's when you first realize that he's got the prawn hand. It's just like, oh fuck, okay.
Yeah, and he's
but also everyone's like shitting on Vickers, and although he is a dickhead, he is just a puppet in a grander scheme.
Well, this is what I was going to say. I was like, it's represented in that scene because he's being forced by, let's say, society or the government or these multinational corporations that are basically running South Africa at this point. MNU, I think they're called. They are basically, war profiteers, whatever you want to call them. They are forcing him to enact his version of prejudice. They're forcing him to be prejudiced because that's the culture they've created.
But it's the company that he works for. Like it's like they don't give a shit about anyone. They just care about their primary goal.
And he,
the boss.
Yeah, he's disposable. Like we were saying, like they're like, we've got to dissect him now. He won't survive. We need to, because he's going to become. Basically, they say he's going to go full prawn. I think is the way you said it earlier. And if they lose that, they lose the ability to kind of use that weapon or find out how it works and how his body links to it while still being human. Like, and again, even the Nigerian kind of gang leaders, like, I'm gonna get that arm. I'm gonna get that arm. But again, it just kind of strengthens the whole kind of message of the film that he's just a pawn or a puppet of the government, this corporation, whatever. And again, that's another kind of theme within the film. Like, should we trust these corporations being heavily involved with government when actually they're trying to profiteer off stuff? And
the second largest weapon
I was about to say the
manufacturer.
second largest weapon manufacturer of the world.
The NMU, it says in the film, they go, oh yeah, they're trying to do all these things, but they're also and it's the documentary style.
I wonder why they want all that weaponry.
And then the guy that exposes them ends up in prison.
Yeah, he's the friend at the start, Fudiswa, and he's the one who, when he hasn't got the vest on at the start, and
it's when they have the tannoy and the thing as well, and they're like, everyone make sure that you've got your vests on. He's like, what the fuck?
Well, also he's the one that he's right at the end when you see him talking and stuff, and he's in like overalls and stuff, and it comes up and says Fudiswa is currently awaiting trial for exposing the illegal movements of NMU, and it's like. It's Snowden all over again, isn't it? It's like I think Snowden was before this, but it's like, here's someone who is exposing the government for doing something illegal, and they are having to either go into prison or completely out of the country and ruin their entire life because although they've shown the government's done something illegal, they had to do something that the government consider more illegal than their own secrets to expose it. So you have to become almost a martyr for showing the government are doing illegal stuff, which is why so few want to do it. So few are willing to sacrifice everything of their own life to expose a government that may be able to just cover everything up anyway.
Yeah, might get out of it in court, or they've got a really good lawyer.
Well, they've got the money to be able to get out of it, haven't they?
True. Pay off certain jury members or what have you. Very cynical view of the world we have, isn't it?
It's unfortunately because it's a lot of the time what happens. Unfortunately,
true,
I've hoped for people, just not hope. I've hope for persons and hope for people to a degree. Big organizations, be it religious or money making or otherwise, that's when everything gets a bit shit and dicey and abusive.
Oh, I'm sure we've both. I think we both separately talked about our views on that on my podcast and on yours. I'm sure. I wanted to say something about, again, like Megan was talking about the documentary footage at the start, like, and everyone going, oh, but what he did, and they're kind of showing like, oh, he must be a bad guy, but he's being again shown as being quite a nice, jovial guy. Like the guy you mentioned who releases the secrets, he's a hero. He was doing the right thing, but all the people in the office are like, yeah, I never trusted him, and I was never that keen on him. And they're like, "Yup," and then in the scenes you're like, "Oh, best mates." Everyone's like, "Yay, yay, Vickers, love you," but they completely
even,
turn
like,
on him.
They even start saying, yeah, as you said, they turn on him. They completely ignored him because they thought it was at his best interest. And I'm like, that's not how you help someone by completely ignoring them and turning your back on someone. That's not how you help.
Well, being someone's friend is rarely truly showing you're someone's friend is not because it's convenient. That's when the real friendship comes out. Is like if you're only friends with someone because it's convenient, you're not really friends with them.
No, absolutely. And I have a friend who's having some difficulty at the moment. I won't go into it, but I'm having him round, maybe 2 or 3 times a week because he needs the support right now, and I'm going to do that. And yeah, sometimes it might not be convenient for me, like trying to keep on top of all these podcasts I'm doing at the moment, or maybe socializing and then work and then kind of managing my own life and what have you. Sometimes, yeah, it is difficult, but I'm doing it because I know he'd do it for me and he'd make those sacrifices for me if I was in a similar situation. So that's exactly why people do it. And yeah, exactly. That's it. You make sacrifices when you need to. And yeah, I love the such subtlety. I like, again, the idea and the messaging is not that subtle, but some of the storytelling aspects and things they use are like, and again, like Mike was saying, they filmed it on location. District 9 is based on a place called District 6, which again was a huge relocation of the black populace of Johannesburg to another area, a mass relocation, which again did not go well, much like it shows in this film. So it is absolutely there. But yeah, I think, again, I don't know if it's maybe the classic I'd like it to be or remember it to be, but I think it's a very strong film for the sci-fi genre. It's clearly inspired by a lot of the greats, like we talked about, The Fly, Robocop, all those kind of great kind of sci-fi films. It's in there and it's got that kind of DNA. But again, for me, it's talking about all these films I love. Again, political satire, body horror, all this kind of interesting stuff while having a wonderful central performance. And just the way it's edited and put together, Peter Jackson was right on the money. Again, not always on the money. Go see the Hobbit films, but to his degree, he went, no, this is the guy. This is the guy. And again, Mike was saying, I think unfortunately because they both kind of like blew us out of the water, the director and the star, I kind of feel like they kind of haven't gotten back to this point. Like they've not had another, unfortunately, because this was so good. They're kind of trying to almost live up to that. And Elysium again wasn't for me. And, and I've seen Sharlto, Copley and other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, okay, pretty good. But it's not where I'm like, this still has a lot of power and, will continue to have power because of its messaging, but also the visuals, the characters, the worlds that we live in, and the world that they live in as well. And again, there's been extensions, been talk of a sequel that is always in kind of development hell and production hell. But I don't know if we'll ever get it.
I think we will. I think, unfortunately, Neil has not had the best of luck with some stuff, which is why he recently made Gran Turismo. And it was like, and everyone's like, why did he do that? It's like, the answer is because of money. Like,
money.
It's because District 9 hit out of the water. Elysium did okay. Shappy, I don't think, did that well. And I don't think Shappy's that great. I think half the film's great, and the other half of the film has 2 atrocious, terrible actors who's also come out as piece of shit as well. So
yeah,
that's being lightly. But then he had this thing called it was Oat Studios, I think it's called. And he released a lot of stuff on YouTube, and even Sigourney Weaver's in 1 or 2 of them, and 2 of them are really good. 2 of them are really, it's like his experimental space that he did for a while, and that was really cool. And there's a few things in that. And then he made a film that I'd never seen. I think it's called Men, that I'd never seen. And there's one other film of his that I'd never seen, but almost everything he's released on IMDb, the short films, are rated really low. But then this, Elysium and Chappie are rated okay, and Gran Turismo is rated okay. But obviously the biggest tragedy was Neil Blomkamp was going to make an Aliens movie. Yeah. And then you see the concept art for it, and it looks phenomenal. And I was like, this is, generally when it got announced, or like, concept art release and stuff, I was like, this is my number 1 most anticipated film maybe ever. Which is and he was like, yeah, it will be between Aliens and Alien 3. And I'm like, Aliens is my favorite Alien film, like it is for many people. District 9 is one of my favorite sci-fi films ever made. His ideas and just general vibe in a sci-fi film that's alien, I would be so beside myself. And instead they went, "Now let's make Covenant with Ridley Scott again," which I like.
Prometheus, Prometheus.
Well, there's Prometheus, then Covenant.
Yeah,
Covenant's also
it was,
Ridley
yeah.
Scott, but which I
you
like.
You can blame him. You can blame him. I'm with you, Mike. I prefer the idea. I preferred the concept. I preferred everything about that. Felt more like an alien movie. And then Prometheus was god awful. I
fucking hate that film.
I gave it my friend Dan. He was like, give it another go. Give it another go. We'll do a podcast about it. And I did. And I went, still feel the same way.
It's
rubbish.
So bad. It's not even an alien film. It's
exactly that's the problem. I think
I'm not
that's
sure
the
it's a
problem.
Megan. I want to do I want to do a Megan like an aliens retrospective, which is Prometheus, Covenant, the 4 main alien films, and the Alien vs Predator films. But the problem is, Alien is good. I don't think it's as good as everyone says, but it's good. Aliens is phenomenal. Megan thought it was all right.
You'd have to get me in a proper fucking good mood to get me to do what is it called? A retrospective.
It's basically what we did with Batman and Scott.
You'd have to get me on a fucking good day to get me to do that. Jesus.
Well, only half of them are good as well. That's the problem. And I know it going in. Is Prometheus is dog shit. I like Covenant, but it's not the best.
I think that's one. I think that's one for your spooky season. I think do all.
I said that. I said Aliens and Predator would work quite well in spooky season. I think because Megan only loves watching big franchises of terrible films. When it's in October, any other time, she's like, "Yeah, we'll watch every like Friday the 13th movie," and I'm like, "None of them are rated above 7."
Good luck.
On IMDb, they're all rated like 3 to 5 out of 10.
We watched the Friday the 13th movie.
No, that's Jason Voorhees. We watched all the Nightmare
on Elm Street,
which you quite liked a lot of them, even though a lot of them are terrible. And you're like, "Yeah, this film sucked." Like,
some of them were actively.
Yeah, but you were like, "There's a difference with you because if it's a franchise,
horror films are different."
Aliens are horror film.
No.
Prometheus isn't. I don't know what the fuck Prometheus is. For me, Prometheus feels like Ridley Scott going so far up his own asshole that he can't walk. And I'm like, the dialogue is awful. And he feels so.
Yeah,
it feels like
you're really selling it to me.
It's not a good film. It has a lot of people who love it. And I'm sorry to those who love Prometheus. But the dialogue in it genuinely feels like Ridley Scott wanking himself off.
What was the one that we watched on the plane?
Image.
the Predator.
Well, I've seen that one.
Yeah, and I haven't shown you the original Predator. I liked the Predator,
except they kept bleeping bits out.
Oh, the swear word.
Yeah,
because we were on a plane.
I can't watch. Like that's why I take a tablet or something because I can't be. I don't like censorship. If you're going to show me something, show me.
We watched everything.
Oh, something about Mary.
There's something about Mary.
How can you watch?
And the scene where he's like masturbating before she comes in, and then she has the jizz in her hair.
Yeah.
It just had a black screen, and it was and it had the noises, and it was like not suitable for children. Please explain. And it was like some weird subtitles.
Please explain. That's my fucking job to explain to my children why it's not working.
It says if you don't understand, then if you don't understand, then to ask your parents or something.
Yeah,
that's what it says on it. And you're like,
but we had to listen to it.
Oh, great. So you're deferring. Yeah, you're deferring a scene that you're showing on your plane that you've made available, and I'm playing it. And you're cutting out the image, and then I have to explain why just don't have it on the plane. If you can't show it, don't have it on the plane.
Cut it out. Have him go in the bathroom after having the conversation with his mate, and then come out with the drip on his ear. But they cut out the drip bit, didn't they? They wouldn't show the drip on his ear.
Nah, there was.
No, she reaches for it, wipes in her hair when it's on his ear.
What did they do? What did they do with the scene where he traps his knob in his zipper? What did they do?
You don't see the zip.
You don't see the Frankenbeans.
Yeah, that's. I think
that's what they get called.
Yeah,
that's what the brother calls it.
Oh, yeah, you don't get to see that. Even though I'm quite glad because that is horrendous.
Anyway,
and it's burnt into my brain. Sorry, yeah, I was moaning about Prometheus.
All right. I don't mind. My friend used to have a job, and he used to have to censor films. He had to watch them and say, right, can't have that, because some of them would feature like a plane crashing, so couldn't have that. And then I remember he was like, I had to cut out some of Ultimate Spider-Man. I was like, what? It's a kid's cartoon. What do you have to cut out of that? And it was like, it had Peter Porker Spider-Ham in, and I was like, right. And he was like, well, Muslim people, it's haram. They don't like, pigs and stuff. So we can't show it at all. I was like, at all? That seems to me.
They don't play Babe.
Yeah, exactly. Anything. But
it would be a 2-minute version.
And again, I don't like
Charlotte's Web, but it's just Charlotte's Web and nothing else.
The Muslim people I know, they're not like, oh, we can't remember that pigs exist. We just don't deal with them.
Peter Porker is an anthropomorphic
cartoon pig.
spider-powered cartoon pig man
Yeah.
that is in such a bizarro reality, and he's like pulls out a hammer on point. Like
He's a Looney Tunes, isn't
I guess
he?
they
He's
wouldn't
Looney
be able to have the Simpsons movie then either.
Yeah,
Spider
Pig.
or
Yeah,
even Looney Tunes because of
I think it's white people being too sensitive,
offended for others.
Because-
that happens a lot.
Because we talked about it on Charlotte's Web on Tonya's Banned Books. They tried to ban the Charlotte's Web in Yorkshire because it had a pig in it, and the Muslim community in Yorkshire were like, no, we're fine with that, thanks. We're not offended by that. That's
In
you.
Yorkshire, there's tons of farms in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Surely they see pigs.
Yeah.
Well, that I think what it is almost like the farmers were like, we don't want you anthropomorphizing at pigs that we're slaughtering. But we can't say that. So let's just say, our Muslim friends are offended by it.
Maybe,
And it's like I may be wrong here, so apologies for anyone I may offend with this comment. But blackboard and whiteboard is because of the color. They changed it to chalkboard instead of blackboard, and apparently it's because it's offensive. Now, I'm not saying I've spoken to every person.
Whiteboard or whiteboard.
Yeah.
I'm saying I've not spoken to every person of color. Okay. But the ones I have spoken to, no one has ever said, yes, I'm offended by a blackboard being called a blackboard because it's the color black.
Is that a thing in the UK? Because
I think this
as much. It's more of an American thing.
Yeah. I think again that's racist going, oh, now we have to now we can't say blackboard. I think it's racist kind of going,
political correctness gone wrong.
Exactly.
Woke.
Political correctness gone mad. It's all woke. Can't do that. I think that's one of their arguments. Like, I can't say I've had a black coffee, or I want a black coffee.
I can't say this anymore.
I think you find you can. You racist bigot. You fucking idiot prick. Get out. Get out.
Prawn.
Yeah, exactly. Get gone. Get in your spaceship and fuck off to wherever you're from.
Yeah, why don't you fuck off out of our planet?
Yeah, exactly. All you
all the racists go find your own fucking island, and the rest of us can
all you little racist bigots, you can fuck right off. That's the one bit of like getting out of my country. They can all get out of the country. Fuck right off. That's my feelings on that. Anyway, speaking of all that, is there anything else we want to say before we finish?
I have two things we haven't mentioned. One of which, do you want to say it, Megan?
Are you looking at this bit?
Yeah, you can go into that. Cause
I didn't like one bit in this film.
Cool.
And that is solely because I can't deal with it.
Same with Black Swan.
Which is it is the same as Black Swan actually. Is the nails, the fingernails when he's transforming and they're coming off. I absolutely hated that. I had to look away. There was another bit that I had to look away at. The teeth bit I was fine with.
At one point he has to bite off the.
It's to do with the nails.
He hits it, doesn't it? He tried to cut it off.
Trying
to cut his arm off.
Cuts his finger off.
Yeah.
There's just a couple of bits, but that's just they're like relevant to the film, but they're just things that I personally can't deal with.
I don't think it's overly gratuitous, which is what I like about this film. You get
it's not gory for the sake of being gory. I can deal with all the head explosions. I can deal with people getting blown up from that stuff. That stuff.
Some of that stuff I love. It's just like when people turn just to fucking liquid all of a sudden. It's one of my favorite things. Like in Bumblebee, the Transformers movie, like this is a violent version of that. But in Bumblebee, they literally turn into like water. Like when they get shot with like an energy blast, they turn into like a liquid form and then just splat on the floor, like just liquid. And I was like, okay, that's a less violent thing, but it works. Yeah.
Have you seen Machete Kills?
Yeah.
Have you seen them? Yeah, I love the Machete movies. They crack me up. But
Danny Trejo.
Yeah. I need to show you Machete. I think you'll have a bit of fun with that. But Machete Kills.
You know Danny Trejo.
I've got his recipe book.
Of course,
we watched the documentary Danny Trejo. We love him. He's great. I need to show quite a lot of Danny Trejo films because Megan likes Danny Trejo, but hasn't seen the Spy Kids movies, which started off Machete. She hasn't seen Machete. She hasn't seen From Dusk Till Dawn.
I mean, the only reason I know who he is because you've shown him to me.
Yeah.
Although I've seen him in a couple of things. He just pops up, doesn't he?
Drag Race.
He popped up as a judge on Drag Race. Or he was a
cameo in one of the
cameoed on RuPaul's Drag Race, and I've seen him in Breaking Bad because he's the
Well, he's very typecast. He played the in fact he played because in the El Mariachi trilogy when he's in that first film he doesn't have any speaking roles, and I think he's had his first 6 or 7 acting roles, which he was credited. He had no speaking. So he was like, because he was just a aggressive-looking, scary Mexican thug.
For the longest time, his role was like prisoner. So like he turns out, I saw The Hidden recently from 1987, and he's got a very small role in that, and he's a prisoner in that. So I think he came out of prison was like, I can play a prisoner. I've got the tattoos for it. And they're like, and you look like you look hard as fuck. So yeah,
He looks
here you go.
scary. And then you
Like,
talk
Yeah,
to him. And
he
he's
has
like
his own donut business.
Well, donuts, tacos, vegan tacos,
Yeah.
his cookbook. He's like the sweetest guy. He's like everyone's favorite, like Mexican grandpa. And he just loves it. And he's so nice. Every interview, he's so thankful. And he talks about, he's got this whole business and thing about making sure that stray cats and dogs are like fixed. And they take, like, as in, no, but in America, they have a real problem with stray cats and stray dogs.
New to your spay and new to your pets, I think, was one of the game show hosts' like phrase at the end of the show. He'd always say that because it was such a widespread problem.
Yeah, in America, because there's so much space and so much area, they can't cull them quick enough. So but anyway, I was going to say, so we mentioned the transforming thing. I was going to mention there's the two other parts, and then I'm done. Which is one is going back to the medical stuff, which is a bit of the horror of the prawns themselves. And there's one shot I really think of, which Chris Johnson sees as well. And that's when there's not only the one that's been skinned, which is horrendous, but for me, the bit that got me was when you've got the torso of one of them hanging in chains, and like that stuff. And when you see how upset, obviously Chris Johnson is, understandably so.
Yeah.
Because he's seeing his people being experimented on. Like that scene really affected me. Did you find this film very emotional, Megan?
I didn't cry. It made me sad in parts, though.
I'm glad you didn't cry. I think that we'll save that for Visitor Q. That'll be the last. Hopefully,
Mate,
the last
film can go fuck itself.
That was a lot.
Literally, honestly. It's not even tears of just like sadness. It's tears of I can't believe how much I hate something.
My most popular TikTok currently is Megan saying, "I fucking despise this film. Fucking hate it. I will never watch this director again. I hate him."
One of mine is your
And I stand by it.
Yeah, fair enough. Like, I don't blame you.
I said when you're going in, you're not going to like this film. It's not a good one. It's just an experience one has to do.
Same with like Necromantic. It's not objectively not a very good film, but there's still something to it I kind of enjoy. For what it is. I don't know.
Almost.
Maybe some sort of weird kind of self-flagellation going on for me. But yeah. Something.
The other thing that we haven't touched upon is the very subtle humor. Now, I like a film with a bit of humor, a little sprinkling of humor, especially when it's a really dark film. And this is quite a bleak movie. This is for a film that I wouldn't class this film as a depressing film, because there are some films I watch and after, like Bridge to Terabithia or something, and you go, after it, you're like, I just want to crawl into a ball and cry.
That is a film that does make me cry.
I fucking hate that film. I think it's actively a bad movie that's also ridiculously depressing. I hate it.
It's just dark.
Yeah, there's no reason at all for it.
That's a lot of levels for that film.
I can't. I think I don't think I could do a podcast. I don't think I can watch that film again. It'd be a mess. But anyway,
it's a fucking kids film.
It is. But I like it when you've got a really, really dark film and you've got little bits of humor, little glimmers of light. And I think this film, it's not got a huge amount, but it's like we mentioned with the party, where he's like,
I'm gonna fucking shit myself.
Where they're in the party and they're like, baby, I know we've got a baby. What are the lights doing off? And he's like, I think I might have clapped my pants. And then suddenly the lights go, and his face is like, oh no, and he's like sweating and all that stuff. And there's lots of little bits where it's like, oh yeah, Vickers is not the brightest person. It's got him being like, the microphone thing sticking to him or something. And it's these little harmless, fun moments that don't take away from the story, but are actually not laugh out loud funny, but a bit.
There were some bits that made me laugh out loud.
Oh yeah.
And I'm looking at one of your notes, and that is one of the bits that made me laugh out loud. Is when he's on the phone, he phones his house so that he can speak to his wife, and his mother-in-law answers the phone, and she tells him to get off the phone or like doesn't pass over the phone. He's like, "You're using my phone, man."
Well, she's like, you're not welcome here anymore, because he's like, not welcome here. You're in my house. You're on my phone. It's like you're talking to me on something that I own.
It made me laugh.
Yeah, no, but I think that's everything from me. I don't know if you have anything to mention else, Megan.
I don't think so.
When you first watched it, because you mentioned earlier about the teasing, the foreshadowing, something bad's going to happen to Vickers, but did you find that, obviously on the first watch, did you realize that he would turn into a prawn, or that he had? Because I thought the impression.
I don't remember, because we watched it such a long time
because I think
ago.
the impression you get is that he dies. I think, or at least betrays people.
The impression I got, the way they talk about him quite negatively, the impression I got is that he betrayed humanity for the aliens. Or that he'd done something bad, or he'd committed a terrorist act, but we didn't quite know why or to what benefit. But then again, you get some of the interviews. Like, I like when they interview his dad, and he's like, "He's dead to me." Like all this,
He's been dead to me for a long time. And
yeah, like you're like,
It's like,
fucking hell. Like, and this is like not even like days or weeks or months later, or I don't know when the documentary is supposed to take place, but it doesn't feel like that long ago. And his mum is like, I'll miss him, but
well, she makes it all about her, doesn't she?
Yeah,
She said,
exactly,
I'm the one
yeah.
who's been left behind. I'm the one who's stuck here. And you're like, this is like, you can see how Vickers kind of clings to his wife in a sense, because both his parents in different ways are kind of, I don't know enough about them to say piece of shit, but the dad is pretty convincingly is. And the mum is probably like, she's nice, but she does make everything about her. And that can be a toxic trait in itself.
And I like when the dad goes up to the other dad and he's like, oh, yeah, this is a great promotion, isn't it? Does that mean he's running this whole operation? He's like, yeah. And he's like, well, that's good, isn't it? Kind of thing. It's like, that's all he really cares about. Like his son is like vomiting and chucking up and bleeding and stuff. And he's like, yeah, but he got a promotion there. Fair play. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of characters, and those kind of interviews are kind of really, and their opinions of Vickers is really interesting, really telling as well how the media is used. I wanted to mention the kind of viral marketing campaign that they did for this film.
Remember that.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah. Because that was when we were both about 14-ish.
Yeah.
Well, this film came out when 2008
or
9.
So we would have been in either year 10
14,
or 11
15
years
old.
Yeah.
I remember it. Yeah, it was around because the internet was still quite. It was youngish then. Wasn't it?
I don't think they'd entirely kind of mastered the online kind of marketing system, but they were putting these posters out like non-humans allowed, report any of this, and you would go to a website and apparently there was 33,000 calls to this phone number reporting alien activity. Like that's a crazy amount of people going, my neighbor's an alien, And I think nowadays that number would skyrocket because we've got a lot more paranoid.
I wonder how many people were just doing it as a thing, and how many people actually believed it. Because it makes me think of when War of the Worlds first came out on the radio, and loads of people were people killed themselves because
it was riots.
It was a real thing.
Running in the streets.
But people went nuts because they thought there was an actual War of the Worlds. I guess it's kind of the same vibe.
I think that some of the
that was kind of a mockumentary because it was kind of like a newscast. Wells was like,
people tuned into it before the start, which says this is fake. When people tune into a newscast, they think aliens are actually invading.
Exactly.
There's also the main. I know that's slightly unrelated, but the main viral film I remember being told about, because it I think came out when me and Megan were born, is Blair Witch Project.
Yes,
that was I think that was one of the first
one.
Movies that did proper actual viral marketing, where they had like news stories going 3 people gone missing. We don't know what's happened in this area.
The actors disappeared for quite a long time. They had a website, but if you actually talk to the locals, they'd be like, "That's your daughter in that film. Is she alive?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, she's alive." Fucking hell, again. She's definitely alive.
Fifth time someone's asked me today.
But again, if that had happened nowadays, it would be like straight on the news, straight on all the news sites.
They tried it, didn't they? With Paranormal Activity, I remember they tried arguing that was real.
They always do it with horror films. They always go, "Oh, it's based on a true story," but not really. Kind of, sort of, maybe a little bit, sort of true. Could be.
Some bloke down the pub said he saw a ghost once, so I made a film.
I'm sure I read something somewhere about being based on a true story. You're allowed to put that if maybe like 15% is accurate. I think the rest is kind of artistic license. You can have it has to be a certain percentage is accurate to be go.
Well, it's like the movie about Freddie Mercury, the Queen movie.
Oh yeah,
Bohemian Rhapsody, because a lot of that isn't actually
bullshit, absolute
true.
bullshit.
Which is quite upsetting because we were like that film.
I really enjoyed that film,
and
then I looked up some of the facts, and I was like, oh, that didn't happen, and that didn't happen. Oh, this is not true. They actually were already living together at this point, and it's not when they first met.
Fight them in a band.
I spoke about Walk Hard, which is one of my favorite kind of comedy films on the podcast, and that is basically taking the piss out of musical biopics. So, and I think unfortunately a lot of modern ones still fall into those traps. So it's like, oh, I just wrote this off the top of my head, this amazing track with or I'm doing an audition and someone said try and be myself, and I'm suddenly amazing and doing all the stuff that I'm supposed to be famous for.
Or like Bohemian Rhapsody wouldn't get played on the radio or something, and apparently
bullshit.
That never happened. The record label heard it, went, this is phenomenal, and then everywhere played it immediately because it's held as one of the best songs ever written. I don't think it's quite that good, but
again, you've got to make an interesting narrative. I get why it needs to be done, because you can't just be like, they were really successful. Like I watched years ago, I watched the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles story about the creation of those characters and how they went from like one thing to another, and it was literally like the comic book was a success. Then we made the cartoon. That was an amazing success. Then we made the movie. That was an amazing success. And then it was just like, and the toys that we brought those out, an amazing success. You know, it's like the most boring documentary. I'm like, yeah, great, but get to when does it start failing? When does it start falling apart? Tell me. And they go, and then we made the next cartoon, another amazing success. Like, fucking hell. And like eventually they were like, yeah, but we fell out at the end, the two creators. We don't quite agree, and one of us got more money and the other one didn't in the deal. But I was like, yeah, this isn't a very interesting documentary at all.
I think that the problem is with Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm sorry, I'm now ending a tangent, but I think the problem is with it is that Freddie Mercury died of HIV/AIDS. He was a closeted gay man, and his heritage is touched upon in Bohemian Rhapsody. And you think, here's a story about a struggling, closeted homosexual in the UK who dies of AIDS. And you could dive into that. And they do a bit in the film. They do talk about it in certain aspects.
Sure.
But then you think for me, I think Rocket Man is a better film than Bohemian Rhapsody in that way because
but that's because Elton John
but the members
is
of
alive
Queen,
and he helped
no, I know,
to
but the members of Queen obviously kind of glamorized.
There were some problems behind the scenes. So like Bryan Singer was directing it initially, and then he's obviously very problematic and wasn't turning up. And then the director of Rocket Man came on board and tried to save it, basically. So that's why it has issues, to be fair. I've seen Rocket Man. I've not seen Bohemian Rhapsody, and people tell me not to go see it. So I'm like, fair enough. Wasn't that bothered about it.
Watch Motley Crue's The Dirt. That's a brilliant biopic.
Oh, yes. I love that.
That's legit. I've got the actual book as well. I read that years ago.
I fucking love that. And I think it's one of the best openings to a film I've ever seen. And it's completely disgusting and brilliant and all at the same time.
And it happened.
And we were like, all of us were like, please rewind that. We need to see that again. I won't describe what happens, but I think it's amazing. Go and watch it.
It's a lot in that.
That's
you can tell me.
Yeah, we can't even really say it on air.
It's a lot. It's a lot of the lot.
Yes.
But it's a fucking way to open a film. You know, I don't think it kind of reaches that point again in the film. Like
maybe when Ozzy snorts the line of ants. That's
pretty
nearish,
that's pretty close. Yeah, but yeah, that is a biopic that knows what it is and has fun with it, and you know, because it's all of them kind of half remembered stories because they're all on drugs. That kind of book that it's based on.
The book's even more intense. There's a couple of things in the book that happen, and you're like, and they're not in the film, and you're like, I can see why this is in the film. It's a great book though.
Borderline stuff. Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, you asked about marketing. We were quite young.
I didn't know about this film until Mike told me about this film, so I don't remember anything.
I remember the posters being iconic, and I'm fairly certain I didn't actually get to see this in the cinema. I think he had quite
a short. Have done. Surely it was too old for you to go and see it.
Well, it's a 15, and I was about 15 when it came out. But I think what happened was a bit with same with Ex Machina, which is it came out, and because it in the UK it was only out for a few weeks.
I don't know those posters.
No, you haven't seen those posters before. God,
no, that's why I said I haven't seen those posters.
Oh, thank you.
You haven't seen those posters before? Are you sure?
But they're pretty iconic. They're not like Fight Club levels of iconic, but those posters for about a year or so were bloody everywhere. Especially going to HMV or something, which is basically where I lived on the weekends. Just go to HMV, look through the poster stack.
That's it. And
you remember
stare at the. I think you said this on a podcast. You'd like to stare at the sexy ones just a little bit too long.
Yeah, you're flicking through them. You go, oh, this is a cool poster with Doctor Who on it. Oh, this is a cool poster with Motley Crue. Oh, here's a very attractive woman in a wet bikini. Let's go to the next one.
Here's Lola Bunny.
Yeah.
yeah. There were no Lola Bunny posters, unfortunately.
No Lola Bunny.
So
if only. But yes. It's an interesting film, definitely, and I think it's a good way to kick off Alien Month. Before we get into some listener comments, I wanted to ask this at the top, but I completely forgot. Are you believers in aliens?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Do you want to go first?
I don't really know.
Classic Megan answer. Okay.
No, I don't. No, I don't know.
No, which is fair. That is a fair answer.
I mean, nobody does, do it? We don't.
Yeah, none of us know. A lot of people think they do, but they don't.
But do you believe? That's the question. Do you know? Do you believe?
Have you seen the film Alien Autopsy with Anton Deck in it?
Anton Deck.
Yeah, that was a fucking film. I didn't see it.
I love that.
I didn't see it. So
really? Don't judge it because Anton Deck are in it. They actually are legitimately good in it. And it's a really interesting film, and it's based on a true story that it's actually pretty accurate. Okay. And the whole thing of it really did happen. And I at least what the people who are involved in the film say, I would genuinely say it's a film a lot of people don't like because they hate Anton Deck.
I mean, they did start as actors.
Hey, I liked PJ and Duncan. You know, I liked their pop stylings, their rap stylings. I like them on Biker Grove. You know, I'm not against
Biker
Ant and Dec.
Grove. That's what they were on. I was trying to think. I was like, is it fucking Grange Hill? No, Biker
not
Grove.
Grange Hill.
Biker Grove.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
I would
I'm blind Dick.
I would say, Dan, in this Alien month, you don't have to pod on it or anything.
No.
I would really like it, even if you do it as a Patreon thing.
Okay.
If you at some point this year watch Alien Autopsy and even if you just message me and tell me what you think, because
It's got 5.9 on IMDb.
everyone hates it, but it's a film that genuinely I think
75% on Rotten Tomatoes. Though.
See, Rotten Tomatoes, you don't get 75 on Rotten Tomatoes and 5.9 on IMDb
and
very
four
much.
and a half on Amazon.
Out of 5.
Out of 5.
While you're there, what's it got on Metacritic?
And Metacritic doesn't come up. Hold on.
Oh, okay, fair.
No, it didn't come up by default, but I imagine like 60
where is
something.
it there? Well, that's a different
No,
thing.
that is Metacritic. Just click on
I
it.
understand that that's Metacritic.
Oh, Under the
but
Skin.
it's-
What a film. Well, I'll let Megan do that. I think Alien Autopsy is a film where it's not as good as this. Don't get me wrong. It's not. You're not going to watch it and go, holy shit, that was the best film ever. But a film like this, because I've never seen a film like Alien Autopsy, and
It's not on Metacritic.
that is odd.
Interesting.
I've never seen a film like Alien Autopsy. A lot of people hate it because it's one of those films where nothing overtly happens in it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like talking, but the whole concept behind it is just really, really interesting, and it genuinely is it's like a biopic basically.
I'll give it a go. I'll do it. I'll tell you what. I'll either, if I don't do it on Patreon, I'll do at least a letterbox review for you.
Oh, thank you. That'd be lovely. Regarding Am I a Believer? So I went through phases in my youth of being interested in supernatural stuff and aliens. I did quite a lot of research into aliens, ghosts, and all kinds of other stuff. And basically, I believe that there's the Furby paradox, which I understand, and I think that there's got to be other life out there.
I think you're going to have to explain that paradox to Megan and me because I've not heard of it either.
Okay, so the Fermi paradox is the main theory as to why humans haven't come into contact with any other intelligent life is because it's almost like an equation, but there are so many things that stack against life. So there's first of all a planet being inhabitable. There's only it's like something like 1 in a certain amount of 1,000, and then every galaxy only has X amount of those. But then there's X amount of billion galaxies. So then you narrow it down. How many viable planets are there? That's one immediate filter. Then there's extinction events, which our planet has had, I think 12 at least. They mentioned that the polar ice caps melting after being hit by an asteroid causing a great flood. That's one of them. That's a lot of people attribute to the dinosaurs being killed. That's an extinction event, etc. Disease,
Ice Age, isn't it?
Yeah, disease happening. That's
I've seen those films. I've seen those films. Very scientifically accurate.
Yeah, very good. But so there's normally lots of extinction events that occur, and we had one that wiped out the dinosaurs. And so that's another layer of the Fermi paradox. Then it is.
Was it Fermi or Furby?
Fermi. The person is.
I thought you were saying Furby.
No,
I thought you were saying.
And I was like, oh, because Furbies are like an alien.
No, this was a theory. This was a theory decades ago by I think some sort of it might be a European theologist or physicist or something.
I honestly thought he was going to bring it right around. Like,
Yeah, I thought that was going to be a
Furbies.
full circle moment linked to Furbies.
It's a guy called something Fermi. But so there's that element of it. Then there's also getting intelligent life. And to clarify, intelligent life is like a mouse. So then it's like, okay, getting an intelligent life that's sentient enough to comprehend itself, which then means that it can then create the technology that's strong enough. Then it's being able to get that level and not destroy themselves, because the main theory is that most societies that get to the level that we're at create weapons of mass destruction and wipe themselves out before they leave the planet. Then there's also trying to get from planet to planet because a certain amount of light years away. So then you have to have a method of travel that either freezes its occupants, which is nigh on impossible without any substantial side effects, or traveling at a speed which, if we travel faster than the speed of light, our bodies and minds won't be able to take it. So there's all these layers of a calculation as to why if you follow Fermi's thoughts, it's borderline theoretically impossible for intelligent life to actually come into contact with other intelligent life, because also this planet's been around for 12 billion years. Humans have only been around in our current form for about 200,000.
There must be something.
So you got to think like, I think the term is if the world's life is a 24-hour clock, humans have only been on it for about 3 seconds. And you think that the chances of us being alive and able to visit the stars or whatever at the same time that another intelligent life is also doing that, and out of the trillions of possible places they could go, they come to our place in only really the last 200 years, is maybe 100 years, is the only time we'd have any way of actually recording, or even history, human history has only actually been recorded for a few thousand years. So it's just all these elements that come into play of it's a near statistic impossibility for two separate intelligent lives from different inhabitable planets ever coming into contact with each other because of just the sheer amount of time. They could have had aliens visited us a million years ago, but humans weren't even a thing then. There could have been aliens that, visited when the dinosaurs were about, but we wouldn't know. So that's the Fermi paradox. So my opinion is that I definitely believe, just by statistics, there are planets out there that have intelligent life. Whether or not that intelligent life is plants or mice or lizards or whatever, or actual sentient beings that have, created language, because that's another big part of how, individuals evolve, and also, evolution and stuff, like how fast the monkey brain evolved into the human brain. That's like a weird thing people don't have a full answer to. So all these elements, I think there definitely are aliens out there. I think it's very unlikely they would have visited. And my argument is that if they have the technology to be able to visit, we wouldn't ever be able to detect them. You think, like, when you see creatures like ants or even mice, think how easy it is for us to, how easy it would be to move a mouse or to spy on a mouse without it realizing. Put a mouse in a box, you put up a double-sided bit of mirror, they will never, ever see you. Done. Do you know what I mean? So I think the idea that if they can actually have the technology to travel as far as they can, why would they ever come close enough for us to ever detect them ever? What would be the point? Apart from, they could easily just send a probe to just watch us without endangering themselves, let alone entering a new atmosphere, hoping it's breathable, etc., etc. So no, I believe they exist. I do not believe they've ever visited Earth. I think that's a lot of it is the government they're doing experiments on stuff and using aliens to kind of, basically go, it might be aliens. And then that spreads across a nearby town, and then the crazy guy saying it's aliens, and then they don't believe anything that happened really because it was like military testing. That's
I used to have a reoccurring dream that I got visited by two aliens.
Yeah,
there was a pink one and a green one. Maybe they were real.
But it's also one of those things that it
was reoccurring.
Are you sure you weren't Timmy Turner in Fairly Odd Parents?
Parents, Fairly Odd Parents.
What a show!
My shiny teeth.
Those fairies could be interpreted as aliens. I think it could happen.
Yeah. What are their names? Wonder and
Cosmo.
Yeah, of course.
I'm glad you love that show.
And
then
yes.
Baby at one point.
Well, excellent answers, Mike. I didn't think we'd go quite so deep into that. But
I'm really sorry.
There's my dumb answer where I'm like, there's something out there.
They said that on the X-Files every fucking week, didn't they? So you're not wrong. There is something out there, but whatever that may be, I believe there's something, even if it might not be intelligent life, but there's definitely at least bacteria somewhere, which is alive. There's definitely something. However minute or simple or complex, I think there's something out there. Statistically, again, I think like you said, I don't think we'll ever see them or we'll ever interact with them, no matter how many hillbillies tell us, the Hicks tell us that they've been abducted or anything. That's the one thing that this month is missing. I'm not really doing an abduction, which maybe I'll save that.
Oh, do you know what film's got an alien in it that you should do?
Go on.
It's the fucking Spice Girls movie.
Megan, I did that a long time ago. And it came close to being on one of my top 5 worst films. Again, I said at the time when I said this, I'll probably get some hate. So it's fun. And it helped my guest come out as a gay man at the time. So it was very important to him. But on the whole, as a film,
it's a great movie.
Good.
It's not good. Fantastic.
I've not seen many alien abductions.
You know what?
Spice Girls movie.
Megan, I would go so far
it's got arseless chaps in it.
It has a lot of things in it. I would go so far to say as it's a bit too weird.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a little bit too weird for
Willy
me.
Wonka.
Yeah, a little too Willy Wonka.
Seeing Double as well, the S Club 7 movie.
Fucking hell, never.
There you go. Put that.
Is that your podcast? Is that your podcast? That's your podcast suggestion that we do S Club 7.
Yeah.
Or Seeing Double.
Seeing Double.
Is it the clone thing? I remember
they get cloned, and the clones don't have belly buttons. That's how you can tell the difference.
Good God. I guess that would make sense because they're not, birthed of woman or anything. So yeah, bizarre. But yeah, maybe one day if you can convince me, I might do S Club 7 Seeing Double. Oh dear. Anyway. Right, so we have a few listener comments before we finish off. So our favorite friend who's a big fan of this film, Angry Andy. I asked him for a comment, and he responded with a disappointed Mel Gibson from the film Signs. He kind of shrugs and walks away in this GIF, or kind of not even shrugs, just kind of rolls his eyes and walks away. So that's Andy's reaction to this. And again, he thinks that the patrons and the general public, I think it did go to the general public, this one, should make better decisions.
It's very close.
Does he not like this film? Or did he just really want you to do Sign?
He really wanted me to do Signs because he feels like District 9 has been talked about too much. Like everybody and their dog has talked about District 9.
Signs is the one there's a meme from Signs, isn't there?
Probably.
Oh, most likely.
I've seen the film, but I don't know what the meme is.
I've not seen the
but it's a good film.
I'm not sure which.
Close,
I've probably seen the meme, but I don't know which one you're thinking of. But back to the filmography. So I am Jack's Musings. He says, arguably one of the finest film debuts of all time, alongside Reservoir Dogs and Monsters. Potentially so good that Blomkamp has yet to equal it. Shame he never got his Alien movie, as we've said. Don't understand why he hasn't been afforded the opportunity to make his mark on Star Wars either.
Now, funnily enough, when I saw Jack's comment, I almost responded to it, but I thought if I do, it's going to spoil the podcast, because literally everything Jack said, I fully agree with in every way. And I think if we got a movie from Blomkamp, it would be a lot more closer to like Andor. And I'm like, we need more of that. We need more of that.
Definitely some more kind of hard sci-fi stuff going on. Yeah, absolutely. Steve J. Ray said, I really enjoyed it. Only ever saw it once, though.
Watch it again.
Yeah,
everybody's only seen it once.
Give it a go.
Give it another go. You get a lot from it on the second watch.
And again, like what we've said about, viewing Vicus in a different light, because again, initially he's your protagonist. You're like, yeah, it's fine. It's just a guy being turned into an alien. Actually, no, it's deeper than that, and there's a bit more kind of subtext and
very human.
Yeah.
Very human
absolutely. So Scott at the 20th Century Geek, he said the inconsistent format approach always bothered me. So he's talking about the mockumentary footage. So it's kind of found footage, but it's more of a mockumentary style, more so. If it was a found footage, it would be like one or two cameras, maybe, or one camera. But unfortunately, it's not that. It's not a found footage film. It's more of a mockumentary. So if you're not down with the mockumentary format, I can understand if you're more like on board with the found footage format. I can kind of guess, because it kind of, again, it mixes quality, different cameras, different angles. There's moments in the film where you're like, is this being filmed by anybody, or is it just...
I did think that as well, because when they're down and they're like torturing him, I'm like, would they let someone film this? Because they're literally torturing.
Well, for scientific things, they would have filmed it, because he's the only person they've ever found. But I would say in certain of the fight scenes in the third act.
Yeah, but also they wouldn't be filming the dickhead CEO and the other guy having their own conversations.
Agreed. Yeah. And also they wouldn't film inside Christopher Johnson's ship.
Exactly.
Like a lot of the other shots are like you get top down, you get a lot of drone shots, and you go, okay, well, if you zoom in really far and clean up you could argue that most of what is seen in the film could be seen by the public, but all the stuff with Vicus in the ship by himself, you're like, there is no way you could ever.
Well, and also when they're underneath.
Yes.
And they've locked Christopher out.
Yeah.
Or rather, Vicus has locked Christopher out. They would.
I mean, those moments are definitely like, this is a normal film. Like this moment is a normal film, but everything else is kind of trying to. I guess though it's almost like those parts aren't in the documentary because they don't know about those things, and and because there's a lot of guesswork going on by them. Like maybe he did this, maybe he's doing that, maybe he did this. We don't know how he got transformed. What was it? So it's them trying to fill in the holes, but then we're seeing it. We're seeing what actually happened. So I can get why people might not be on board with that. So I just think it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work another way, because I wouldn't want it to be like a Cloverfield first person thing. It would be ruin it.
Yeah, that would be. I think that would be too different. And again, we need that human element. If we didn't know his inner workings and his journey, then it wouldn't be as satisfying a film. And again, it would be too vague. I like the vagueness of a lot of it, and I like that not a lot of it is actually explained properly and fully. But yeah, I think you do need it. I understand what he means, but I still think it works.
I think it's a minor issue for me. I'm like, I get it, but it doesn't affect the quality of the
film. But yeah, Scott says the film is really good though, and the end shot is heartbreaking.
Oh yeah, he's sat on the rubbish pile making
his flower.
Yeah.
And Matt says, I've always heard good things, but I've never seen it. I may have to take the plunge and give it a watch.
Everyone should. I think this is one of the most important sci-fi films anyone could see. Not necessarily, even though I think it is one of the best. I think it's one of my favorites. I think it needs to be watched because it's not like any other film I've ever seen. There's loads of social commentary, and I just think it's just one that needs to be watched, to be honest, by almost everyone. I think almost anyone who's into film would find something to enjoy about this. It's not going to be everyone's favorite, but if someone watched this and actively hated it, I would. It's one of those films I'm like, how if you don't love it, whatever, but if you hate it.
Speaking of someone who actively hated it,
here it is.
Dave Horrocks says, so forgettable, I've forgotten pretty much everything about it.
Dave, I love you, but that's you. That's not the film. Watch it again.
To be fair, I enjoyed it and I forgot most of
But
the
you
stuff
are
that happened
there you
in
go.
the last film.
You forget a lot of films you even like.
This is true.
It's all right. Well, and this is what we love about Megan. But she gave it another go. She gave it another try, and she enjoyed it.
That's part of the fun, because sometimes I can get to watch a film that she's seen with me before, and she can barely remember it. Like the bit where Christopher Johnson is when Vickers betrays him, and you were like, "Oh, I don't want something bad to happen."
It's kind of a gift, really, because you get to
51st Dates, isn't it?
Yeah, you get to
51st films.
re-experience, like, you know, you can watch.
Yeah.
Was that
Sorry.
Trainspotting? We watched that, didn't we?
Yeah.
And you'd half forgotten.
Nah, I remembered a lot of Train Spotting.
Okay.
It is a lot of that is quite iconic, to be fair.
Yeah.
There were bits in that film. I was like, Mike, you need to pre-warn me when bits are coming up, please.
Yeah, please tell me when the baby's crawling on the ceiling, please. That's
no. Well, yeah, the baby on the ceiling was creepy, but it was when the actual baby thing happened.
The other baby bit, yeah.
You just like seeing Kevin McKidd from Grey's Anatomy being a
I didn't even realize that it was the guy from Grey's Anatomy and Ewan McGregor's Willie.
That's a good one.
Yeah, there is that. There is definitely that. Check out our top 5 full frontal male nudity scenes from films over on my other podcast with Rhea for all of that goodness. A lot of you McGregor talk as well, and Train Spotting we discuss as well. So yes, and then Max Byrne said really enjoyed it at the cinema, but haven't seen it since. And then Blake Biles says, same for me. Couldn't finish Chappie though. Found Die Antwood unbearable. Same.
Yeah, they're the worst.
And there's more in real life that makes them
serious problematic stuff.
Fucking horrible human beings.
Piece of shit. Yep.
But we've come to the end of our first installment of Alien Month. Thank you, guys. You've been brilliant as always. I appreciate you bringing this back to me. I'm glad I rewatched it. Thank you again. And where can people find all of your wonderful content, which I am a Patreon too?
Megan?
Hello.
You've been posting on your Instagram.
I have been posting on my Instagram. What a day, what a dream. Yeah, Grits.
Who are you?
Yeah, I actually, I'm focusing on losing weight and my weight loss journey, and I'm trying to use Instagram as kind of a way to kind of like keep me somewhat accountable at the same time. Yeah. So if you want to follow my slimming world journey, you can follow me on Grits Gets Fit. But otherwise, I'm on wherever.
I'll give Megan all the
I'm on
plugs.
other places.
So Megan is going to be appearing on Back to the Filmography soonish, doing the Meg. She is going to be on Disney discussions, because she always is every couple of months. Myself, Megan, Dan, and Rhea, all Rhea on Film.
Very soon.
We do Disney discussions every couple of months. So there's that as well. Got some fun surprises for the year. Megan is also appears in Genuine Chit Chat occasionally. We did the episode with Chris about Vegas. That was one of the most recent ones. But you can find her every single week without fail at patreon.com/genuine chit chat. For only £1 a month, then you get immediate access to all the episodes of Afterthoughts. We release one every week. There's at least 200 episodes out. The vast majority of them are myself and Megan reviewing TV shows, movies, things like that. Normally within 10 or 15 minutes, so it's quite succinct, quite short. It's generally an afterthought.
If you want to hear some random songs, you can find them there.
Oh, that's my favourite bit.
Yeah, Megan sings in a lot of them, which is good fun.
Spooky season.
She sings her own jingles, and it's spooky season.
I mean, it's not my own jingle.
That's the Chuckle Brothers.
That's her own jingle.
Original jingles.
Homage to the Chuckle Brothers.
But your new podcast has an original jingle.
That does have an original jingle.
So there's a podcast which is Eminem Monthly, and by the time this drops, I think 2 episodes will be out on the main feed of Genuine Chit Chat. So we did a brand new podcast, which is Eminem Monthly. We speak for at least half an hour about one random topic. The first episode was hair, which Megan was like, hair? How are we going to talk about hair for 30 minutes? And she was still talking at the 45-minute mark. I had to wrap it up. And even Tony said I liked it because you could see how passionate Megan was. Unlike certain Afterthought, she's a bit tired. genuinely really passionate.
I'm a sleepy girl.
And then we got another one, which is pantomime, which we go through all of Megan's experience in the pantomime that she did last year, and we talk about pantomimes in general.
Oh, it was this year,
That's-
technically.
Well, yeah,
January.
that was another 40 minutes. And we're basically saying all patrons get access to it a month early. So, and also patrons get priority in choosing the topics. So everyone can submit a topic. You can watch the YouTube video and put comments in there, or comment message on social media, whatever. And we'll put into basically a spinner, but all of the patrons will get the priority. So if anyone is a patron supporter, please let us know any subject you want. My only thing is, let's not be like the concept of like existentialism. That'll be a bit of a push. You know, ease it back a little bit.
Anything too saucy.
But pretty much anything else, you could just say one word.
No,
phrase,
it's got to be saucy because I like Megan's dirty laugh, so it's got to be something.
Okay, I mean, it has to be within reason because Megan is still a teacher, so they can't
Fair
be
enough,
too
fair
much
enough.
in case her
Fair
kids found it. But you know, Eminem Monthly is the big new show, so if you like hearing from Megan and you like hearing more from her than you would in like Afterthoughts episodes, then yeah, you can hear that on Genuine Chit Chat. Every month, and it'll be, you know, fun there. Find me at Genuine Chit Chat on all the usual social media places, and I think everything I've just said basically I've done with Megan. I was on 20th Century Geek talking June, and obviously a few other bits and pieces. Me and Dan have got some fun stuff planned as well in the future.
Absolutely, or in the past, potentially.
Yeah.
If
Whenever
I'm
it
thinking
comes out.
Whenever it comes out. Again, this is way ahead of time because I want to not be stressed out while I'm doing 4 or 5 podcasts at once again. But yes, thank you very much, guys. I will leave all of those in the show notes as per usual, as well, if people don't want to look it up on the phone immediately while trying to listen to it at the same time. So that can be a bit tricky. But you can find me at spiderdownandsecretballs.com on the World Wide Web. Don't forget to use the hashtag #PrepareForPrattle when you interact with us. Please subscribe to the Pop Culture Collective newsletter, which I never write for when I should be doing.
You can find my stuff on there.
You'll find Mike stuff because he's really good and organized, but I'm not. And find out what myself, Comics in Motion, and all the other related podcasts, including Genuine Chit Chat, are up to week by week. And I'd like to thank my patrons, including Mike Burton, I Am Jack Musing, Simon Cotton, Paul Meller, Angry Andy, Tonya Todd, Math, Scott Hodgson, Ria Carrigan, Sarah Coyne, and Pete Walton. Thank you for your continuing donations. It does help the podcast and helps the Prattle world keep on turning.
And we choose the topics.
We do. This year especially, definitely. Every single one, as much as possible. But yes, 2024 is for the patrons. It is for you. And this is, again, a result of Patreon polls. The month itself and this episode itself, especially. But yes, thank you, guys. This has been wonderful. And what a great way to kick off Alien Month. But yes.
Oh, Christ.
That was
worst octave
that was terrifying.
I've ever done.
That was terrifying.
That was horrendous.
More terrifying than our impressions of Sharlto Copley this podcast.
I'd agree.
Yeah, it's got Prawnographic, definitely. This whole podcast.
You fucking prawn.
Fucking prawn.
I'm not one of those fucking creatures.
I wouldn't be pornographic.
Trust me, baby. I would not do one of those things with those fucking creatures.
Fucking creature. With that little gremlin, that little creature.
Little runt.
Little runt. Yes, apologies again for anyone who finds any of my accents offensive in any way. That is not what we're about. But yeah, excellent content, excellent people, excellent podcast. And we'll see you in another cosmos, in another world. Goodbye.
Goodbye.